we are going to start with a new chapter, and that is breathing and exchange of gases. This is the 17th chapter and it is from the unit of human physiology. So first let us try to define what is respiration. First let us define respiration and then we'll move on and we'll talk about the types of respiration, the steps involved in it and many other things. So respiration is defined as breakdown of respiratory fuel to produce energy. So respiration is defined as the breakdown of respiratory fuel to produce energy. Fuel is something that gives energy, that produces energy. So that's what is happening in respiration. This is one way we can define it. Another way is respiration is the act of inhaling air. So, or we call it as breathing. Also we can define it as the process in living organisms where energy is produced usually or typically by the intake of oxygen and the release of carbon dioxide from the oxidation of the complex organic substances. So that's also another way we can define respiration. But this is the most common way. In every definition means the same thing, but this is the most common way we can define respiration. It is the breakdown of respiratory fuel to produce energy. So here in this process, in this living process which is happening in the living organisms, here the energy is produced typically by the intake of oxygen. Intake means taking in of oxygen and releasing or producing out the carbon dioxide or the bad air from the oxidation of some complex organic substances. So these are the ways we can define the term respiration. So respiration is the main topic that we'll be focusing in this chapter. Now we are going to come to the types of respiration that we can have. There are two types of respiration. The first one is aerobic respiration, and the second one is anaerobic one. Aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So these are the two types of respiration that we can have. Aerobic respiration is the type of respiration where oxygen is involved. So oxygen is present. In the presence of oxygen, this aerobic respiration is taking place. Anaerobic is just the opposite of aerobic respiration. Here oxygen is absent. So aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is where oxygen is there. So in the respiration there is the involvement of oxygen. In case of anaerobic, oxygen is not present. So without this oxygen the respiration is happening or taking place. So here we have defined what is respiration and the types of respiration. Now one more thing, we have looked at the types as well. Here aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic respiration, so aerobic respiration takes place. This aerobic respiration is the type of respiration where oxygen is present. This aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria. In the mitochondria of the cells. So aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria. Mitochondria is called as the energy powerhouse of the cell. So in the mitochondria of these cells, the aerobic respiration takes place. Aerobic respiration is the type of respiration where oxygen is present. So if we have to write the equation for this aerobic respiration which is taking place in the mitochondria of the cells, we can write it like this: C6H12O6. So 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens and 6 oxygens. So C6H12O6, that is glucose, usually present in the form of food. So this glucose combines with oxygen to produce, or this results in the breakdown of carbon dioxide, that is CO2, water, that is H2O, and energy. So aerobic respiration equation is this one. C6H12O6, that is glucose and oxygen, results in the breakdown of carbon dioxide, or gives rise to carbon dioxide, water, H2O, and energy. Energy is in the form of ATPs, adenosine triphosphates. So here there is nothing hard to remember here, just glucose. Glucose is in the form of food, so we take in food, that one. Oxygen is, we inhale oxygen, so we breathe in oxygen. Breakdown results in the breakdown of carbon dioxide, so we exhale carbon dioxide. Water is also as a byproduct given here, and energy. So we are getting energy. Why are we eating food? We are eating food to get energy. So that is what is happening here. We are taking in food in the form of this glucose, and energy is given out. And we use this energy to do various activities. And here oxygen is taken in, we are inhaling oxygen, and carbon dioxide is given out, and here water is also given out. So this is the equation of the aerobic respiration which is taking place in the mitochondria of the cells. Now we'll talk about the steps now. So here we are going to write it. So here we have defined respiration, the types of respiration, the aerobic respiration equation. Here we are going to talk about the steps involved in the aerobic respiration. So steps. Now here we have written this equation. This equation is not just a single step process, it's a multi-step process. Here we are going to take up the steps involved in it. The first one, the first process which is happening is called as glycolysis or glycolysis. Glycolysis, here what happens is glucose, so glucose is C6H12O6, results in the breakdown of, or gives rise to 2-pyruvic acid, or is converted to 2-pyruvic acid. So 2-pyruvic acid molecules. So glucose gives, or glucose is broken down into 2-pyruvic acid. This is the first step which is happening, that is glycolysis. The second step is called as link reaction. Link reaction. Here 2-pyruvic acid converts into acetyl coenzyme A. Acetyl coenzyme A. So 2-pyruvic acid converts into acetyl coenzyme A in case of link reaction. This is the second step which is happening. The third step is called as Krebs cycle. Here what happens is acetyl coenzyme A, so acetyl coenzyme A converts into carbon dioxide. So acetyl coenzyme A converts into carbon dioxide in case of Krebs cycle in this process. The fourth step, so here we are going to write the fourth step, that is called as electron transport chain. So ETC, electron transport chain. So this is also a series of the electron acceptors which are present. And the fifth process, the last one, is called as oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation. This is the last process which is present in the aerobic respiration. So in the last process, that is oxidative phosphorylation, the energy is produced. So energy produced here. Now the energy produced here is in the form of ATPs. So this ATP is in the form of this energy. So energy is in the form of ATP. This happens in the process of the oxidative phosphorylation, which is the last process. This energy produced, we have told that this is in the form of ATP. The ATPs which are resulting at the end, so here we have written glucose and oxygen results into or converts into carbon dioxide, water, so CO2 plus H2O, water plus energy. So we have told that energy is also is given out, or it is converted into energy. Energy is in the form of ATPs. Here also we have told oxidative phosphorylation converts, or in this process the energy is produced. The energy produced at the end is 38 ATPs. 38 ATPs is the energy that is produced at the end of this aerobic respiration process in case of humans. So aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria of the cells, and this is the equation of the aerobic respiration. And here we have taken a look at the steps which are involved. The first one is glycolysis, second is link reaction, third is Krebs cycle, the fourth one is electron transport chain, and the fifth one is oxidative phosphorylation. Here is where the energy is produced. So energy is produced, and the energy which is produced at the end of this aerobic respiration is 38 ATPs. So this is about the aerobic one, where oxygen is present in the process of respiration. Now we are going to take up the anaerobic respiration, and here there also we are going to look at the equation which is there. So now we are going to learn about the anaerobic respiration. So that is the fifth thing that we are talking about, anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the process of respiration where oxygen is absent. There is no involvement of oxygen in this case. First, we are going to talk about the anaerobic respiration in lower organisms, and then we'll come to humans. So we are just for example, we are going to take up the anaerobic respiration in case of yeast. This is a unicellular, the lower organism which comes under the kingdom fungi. So this is a single-celled organism, and we call it as lower organism. So first we are going to take up this example yeast, and then we'll come to in case of humans. In case of the anaerobic respiration in yeast, the equation is C6H12O6. C6H12O6 is the glucose, which is the food in the form of food, converts into 2-pyruvic acid. So glucose C6H12O6 converts into 2-pyruvic acid molecules, and this glucose converts into 2-pyruvic acid. This 2-pyruvic acid again converts into a substance that is ethyl alcohol, or we call it as ethanol. And the chemical formula of ethanol is C2H5OH. C2H5OH is the chemical formula of ethanol or ethyl alcohol. So here we have 2 molecules of this C2H5OH, and here also 2 molecules. So 2 molecules and 2 molecules. And in this process, the carbon dioxide molecule is given out. So this is how the anaerobic respiration happens in case of yeast. So here there is no presence of oxygen. C6H12O6 is glucose. Glucose into ethanol. In that process, so glucose first converts into the pyruvic acid, 2-pyruvic acid, and then 2-pyruvic acid converts into ethyl alcohol or ethanol, that is C2H5OH. So here we take 2 molecules and 2 molecules, and here carbon dioxide is given out. This is the anaerobic respiration in case of yeast. Let's come to the anaerobic respiration in humans. So anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration in humans. Now in humans, anaerobic respiration, aerobic respiration takes place in humans. Also anaerobic respiration also takes place, and that too in muscles. It takes place in muscles and red blood cells, RBCs or erythrocytes. So it takes place in muscles and RBCs. Now in case of muscles, the anaerobic respiration in muscles takes place only when we do a lot of activity, lot of physical activity. In that time, this muscle, the anaerobic respiration takes place in muscles, and as normal it takes place in RBCs as well. This we are talking about in the higher organism, that is humans. Here glucose is converted into lactic acid molecules. So C6H12O6 converts into 2-pyruvic acid, and this 2-pyruvic acid gives rise to lactic acid molecule. So here 2 molecules of pyruvic acid and 2 molecules of lactic acid. So C6H12O6 converts into 2 pyruvic acid molecules, and 2 pyruvic acid molecules again converts into 2 lactic acid molecules. Now excessive accumulation of this lactic acid in case of muscles in humans results into the muscle fatigue. So the tiredness of this muscle. That is one thing we need to remember. Also, when we are talking about the types of respiration, there we have looked at aerobic one and anaerobic one. In aerobic respiration, we have told that in the oxidative phosphorylation, the last step, so we have looked at glycolysis or glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, and oxidative phosphorylation. In oxidative phosphorylation, we have told that 38 ATPs are released. That is energy. Energy is in the form of ATPs. 38 ATPs are released in aerobic respiration. So here we are going to write down aerobic respiration. There 38 ATPs are released. Now here in anaerobic respiration in yeast, in both of these reactions, in both of the equations that we look at, or in both of the processes, both anaerobic respiration in yeast as well as in humans, that is in muscles or RBCs, here in both reactions 2 ATPs, so plus 2 ATPs are given out. 2 ATPs are released. So in yeast, anaerobic respiration in yeast, 2 ATPs are released. In aerobic respiration anaerobic respiration in humans, here also 2 ATPs are released. That means 2 ATPs are used up in this anaerobic respiration, be it yeast or in humans. In both reactions, the anaerobic respiration, the 2 ATPs are getting released. That means these 2 ATPs are used up in anaerobic respiration. Here we have told 38 ATPs. In this 38 ATPs, the 2 ATPs are used up in this reaction. So here 38 ATPs minus 2 ATPs. Why are we writing minus? Because these are used up in anaerobic respiration process. In aerobic respiration, 38 ATPs are released, that are produced. In anaerobic respiration, 2 ATPs are used up. So here we write 38 ATPs minus 2 ATPs gives 36 ATPs, and this is the number of ATPs at the end. So we are remained with 36 ATPs. This is the last product that we get. First we have told that 38 ATPs, that is in aerobic respiration. After anaerobic respiration, there 2 ATPs ATPs are released. So we have to write 38 ATPs minus 38 minus 2. That gives rise to 36 ATPs. So we have 36 ATPs remaining. Those are the ATPs that are produced in both aerobic and anaerobic reactions. So this is about the types of reaction. We have looked at the definition of respiration, types of respiration, aerobic respiration equation and the steps as well, anaerobic respiration in case of yeast, the lower organism, and in case of humans as well, in muscles and red blood cells or erythrocytes. Now we are going to take up the types of respiration on another basis of or on another criteria. So we have learnt about two types of respiration, that is aerobic one and anaerobic one. We have two more types of respiration. So types of respiration. This classification is on the basis of the contact. So types of respiration, the first one is direct respiration or direct respiration, and the second one is indirect one. As the name suggests, direct respiration means the cell which is doing the respiration or the cell is in direct contact with the respiratory gases, respiratory gases. So the cell, the main cell which is doing the respiration is in direct contact. So directly it is in contact with the respiratory gases. That is in case of direct respiration. And this direct respiration is seen in lower organisms like amoeba. Also it is seen in poriferans, cnidarians or coelenterate and some terrestrial flatworms. In indirect respiration, this is the second type. Here there is no direct contact. So no direct contact with the respiratory gases, and this indirect type of respiration takes place with the help of some special tissues. So takes place with the help of some special tissues. Tissues are a group of cells. This thing we already know. So there is no direct contact in case of indirect type of respiration. No direct contact between what? No direct contact between the cell and the respiratory gases. And this indirect respiration takes place with the help of some special tissues. And example are the higher organisms like in case of humans. This is one more way on how we can classify respiration, that is on the basis of the contact between the cell and the respiratory gases. Direct and indirect. By the name itself you can understand these. Next we are going to take up the steps. So this is the seventh one that we have. The eighth one that we are discussing now are the steps involved in the process of breathing and respiration. So in the whole process, we are writing the steps which are involved in the process of respiration. The first step is called as breathing or pulmonary ventilation. So breathing or pulmonary ventilation. Breathing is taking in or inhaling, breathing in the air. So breathing or pulmonary ventilation. This is the first process or the first step that is happening in the process of respiration. This thing we are not talking about like aerobic, anaerobic like that. We are talking about the whole respiration process, the steps involved in it. The first one is breathing or pulmonary ventilation. The second step which is involved is called as exchange. So exchange of respiratory gases between blood and alveoli. Blood and alveoli. Alveoli are the little grape-like structures which are present in the lungs. So little which are surrounded by like tough capillaries. So these are alveoli. These are ball-like structures which are present just at the end of the bronchioles. So this we'll talk about when we're talking about the structure of the respiratory system. We have the mouth, nose, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, the further branches which are there, and then alveoli. These are all covered with the lungs. So here exchange of respiratory gases takes place between the blood and the alveoli. This alveoli is the main surface area or the main place where this respiration or the exchange of gases will take place. Usually we'll tell lungs, but if you have to be very specific, that is alveoli, where this exchange of gases is taking place. The third step is transport. The third step is called transport of respiratory gases by blood. So this is the third one, that is transport of respiratory gases by the blood. The fourth step that we have here is the exchange of respiratory gases between, this time it is between blood and tissues. So here exchange of respiratory gases between blood and alveoli. Then we have the transport by the blood, transport of respiratory gases by the blood. Here exchange of respiratory gases between the blood and the tissues. The fifth or the last step which happens in the process of respiration is utilizing the oxygen. So utilization of oxygen. So here oxygen is utilized or used up, this utilization of oxygen by this C6H12O6, that is glucose breakdown take place. So using this oxygen, so by here we can write by utilization of oxygen, glucose, that is C6H12O6, break down to release energy takes place. So utilization of oxygen, C6H12O6, by utilization of oxygen, glucose breakdown to release energy takes place. There is nothing hard in it, just by using the oxygen, glucose breaks down to release the energy takes place. So that's what the fifth step is, the last one. So here we have taken a look at the 5 steps which are involved in the process of respiration. The steps, the first one is breathing or pulmonary ventilation. The second one is exchange of respiratory gases between blood and alveoli. Then the transport of respiratory gases by blood takes place. And then there is exchange of respiratory gases between the blood and the tissues. And then by utilizing the oxygen, glucose breakdown to release energy takes place. So these are the 5 steps of respiration. So in this video we have taken a look at the definition of respiration, and then the types of respiration, that is aerobic, anaerobic one. And then we have taken a look at aerobic respiration, where does it take place in the mitochondria of the cell, and then the equation of the aerobic respiration. the general equation, and then we have taken a look at the steps involved in aerobic respiration only, and then we have taken a look at anaerobic respiration in yeast and in humans in muscles and RBCs. Also, we have taken a look at the types of respiration by another criteria, that is the contact between the cell and the respiratory gases. So direct and indirect, by the name itself you can tell this one. And then lastly, we have taken a look at the steps involved in the process of respiration, that is breathing or pulmonary ventilation and so on. So these are the 5 steps which are involved in respiration process. So this is all about the respiration definition and the types of respiration and the steps involved in it.